Oftentimes, the chairperson is seen as unapproachable due to its supposed elevated status. How will you go about making yourself approachable within the next year to GPMers?
Well, in terms of addressing the fact that chairperson, obviously, we're often regarded as the face of AB Samahan with the position that we have. And understanding that while we do have a lot of responsibilities, being the face of AB Samahan means that we have to represent all individuals that partake and identify with this organization. And part of that is understanding and connecting with our general body members. In this upcoming year, one thing that I hope to do, despite the online and hybrid situation that we face, is to make that personal connection the same way that my predecessors have, and that I try to do my best in my role as cooperative cultural affairs coordinator. Whether that be through messaging them individually and taking the time to really get to know these individuals who may find themselves in an AB Samahan meeting or an event, either through text or hopefully one day in person, getting to strike up the conversation. I recognize the importance of in-person or virtual connections with those individuals. I do really want to destigmatize the role chairperson has in terms of the scary face with all the responsibilities, because one thing that I really want to emphasize is that as chairperson, I'm here to serve you. And the only way I'm going to be able to is if I make the connection and understand the problems that our community is facing. And that begins with that communication.
Okay, thank you for that. Per the Constitution, chairperson mediates the problems and dysfunctions of the organization. With this in mind, how would you go about balancing tackling organizational issues without neglecting regular organization needs?
One thing that's important to recognize is that despite being chairperson, I'm here with a team of over 20 people who are there to help support this organization to make sure things are running as smoothly as possible while ensuring that their own responsibilities are being met. With that, the first step to ensuring that hardships are getting we're facing our hardships correctly is through an open lines of communication. Getting through these difficult situations is a collaborative effort amongst all parties, and that will include our entire board in the case that us as AB Samahan comes across an issue. There are no enemies, only people in need of guidance with the hope that we get through these conflicts and making sure that we learn from them as well. What I will say is that because we are such a large team of individuals, I have so many people who will be on the side of AB Samahan in order to get us through these issues. If that involves our entire board or just a small team to help us get through it, I know who to ask, and those are the reliable individuals who will be in this upcoming board next year.
Thank you for that. My last question for you is, recently President Delatorre had sent out an email announcing fall 2021 would be primarily in person. This implies some aspects of campus life would remain online. Given the situation, do you have any plans to make AB Samahan accessible for both students on campus and online?
So, in recent meetings that I've had, along with you, Crystal, we found out that although we are moving on campus, of course, there's limited capacity as to how many people we can have in our usual meeting space at Park Boulevard. Although we are hoping, with our fingers crossed, that capacity will one day reach 100%, we are well aware that we may not be able to accommodate for all the members who may be looking to join us for general events like meetings, hopefully for the future, possibly an in-person KAA program. We know that these first general body meetings and KAA program or FG practices or FCN require not hundreds, at least in the case of KAA, almost up to 300 people at the very least. Hopefully in the future though, we'll be able to have these meetings, but in terms of our hybrid environment, one of our plans, or one of the plans that I hope to carry out is to host general body meetings every now and then in person while accommodating for those online by having alternative meetings between Zoom and in person at Park Boulevard. Of course, this will take a lot of collaboration um, and work from our e-board members, but it's something that I know we will be able to face considering the adaptations that we've made this year in our virtual setting. Along with that, um, it's honestly just a waiting game to see what regulations are made by um, first off the CDC as well as our campus government to see what we'd be able to do. And it'll be a continuous adaptation on part of my e-board as well as myself if elected chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Now you will go ahead and be asked 2 questions by one of elections committee from the audience.
Hi, EJ.
Hello.
Your first audience question. In a situation where one or more of the executive members are not able to uphold their duties in which eventually resulted in reoccurring events that held back the process of the overall organization, as a student leader, how do you intend on handling this sort of situation?
Thank you for the wonderful question, Mai. So as I mentioned earlier, hardships and situations that may come across are bound to happen in any organization, especially one as large as Andres Bonifacio Samahan. But I can't stress the importance of the open lines of communication that we must establish when addressing these hardships. Like I mentioned earlier, getting through these difficult situations is a collaborative effort. And in the end, we only hope that we resolve it, making use of a growth mindset and growing from our mistakes, knowing not to make them the next time the situation may occur. Although this might be the hope, I also understand that there will be times where mistakes are made or actions are taken that go against what we as an organization stand for. In those cases, I can assure that firm action will be taken against any individuals, as I'm not one to shy away from conflict. But with that, I always intend to resolve whatever conflict it may be in a means that serve best for all parties, but above all else, the organization that so many of us identify with and look up to.
Thank you. And your last audience question. How do you plan on instilling trust and transparency amongst all members and officers in AB Samahan during the transition back to in-person classes, considering the recent allegations towards AB Samahan not aligning with the COVID-19 safety regulations?
Can you repeat the question one more time, Maya?
How do you plan on instilling trust and transparency amongst all members and officers in AB Samahan during the transition back into in-person classes after the recent allegations towards AB Samahan not aligning with the COVID-19 regulations?
Well, to start off, as we know, and as I've mentioned earlier, as chairperson, I'm serving as the face of AB Samahan. With that, I recognize that the best way to show others that I mean business is to lead by example, by doing my best to gain the trust of of those individuals in which we lost, and to continue leading with transparency, both with our executive board, of course, and of course with our GBMers. Transparency, however, includes me being upfront and honest, which is something that I believe I can do, um, knowing myself, and of course, hopefully the case that our GBMers and e-board members of the future also know me. I am fairly firm with what I believe in, and I'm definitely able to stand up for those individuals. In terms of gaining the trust, however, I know it's a process and it's something that will be ongoing throughout my time if I am to be elected chairperson. There's no guarantees that I'll be able to accommodate to all individuals of the organization, especially after trust is lost. But what I can guarantee is that I will work my hardest in order to understand the perspectives that they're giving me and doing my best to accommodate for them in order to earn back the trust that we've lost in the past.